mind can take over the inputs that your body is feeding you,
Yeah.
you're the strongest that you could possibly be.
Could you hear that?
Not really.
Okay.
Oh no, there,
Okay.
I hear it. It's like barely there.
All right. We're ready to party. We're live
Beauty.
on Instagram. We're live on YouTube. Now I got to cover everything up because if I watch myself in like the delayed YouTube version of things, I get confused really easily.
Understood.
Just waiting for some dudes to join the YouTube, and then we can. I'll just make sure everybody can hear everything over there.
Cool. Cool. I was gonna wear that.
Oh yeah, but then we would look. That'd be a little cheesy, right?
Yeah, I know. So I was like that, and I've got my lights like way up over there. So then I've got this weird shadow thing going on.
Yeah. I'm trying to do like the low key, like just sitting in my basement with this one.
No, it's just like off the cuff. It's nice.
Where's the whiskey at, fellas? Yeah, I know.
All the whiskey's here. So I'm drinking Lefroy 10. Sorry.
Hey, there you go.
Oh man, it's good stuff.
For anybody who doesn't know, it was so funny because I met with somebody the other night, and I've known this person for like 10 years, and I mentioned something about being sober, and they looked at me and they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I've been sober for 14 years. Like the whole time we've known each other, I've been sober." And I think, yeah, not a lot of people know that about me, because personally, I don't really give a shit. It doesn't like it's not really like a defining characteristic. Hang on, I need a fan as always because I'm fucking sweaty. Fuck.
No worries.
So a little bit off topic. I just finished my first posing session with my posing coach.
Cool. How did that go?
It's weird, dude. It is weird. Like, yeah, you're basically. So I had to set up in my other studio, and it's the first time I ever met him. He was the head judge for BC for 20 years.
Wow.
And he does these things, and it's like, yeah, man, you get down to it, and it's like, yeah, quarter turn, relaxed, front relaxed, quarter turns, back relaxed. You go walk through the 8 mandatory poses.
Which, by the way, relaxed actually isn't relaxed. Like,
yeah, it's kind of like awkward looking,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
With the lats
totally.
out and the arms out.
Totally.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's yeah, it was a trip. But you know what's kind of funny in life? Like, I think we were talking about a little bit about creativity, and I think we've had similar conversations about learning in general.
Yeah.
And I think you can be a lot more successful with systems than without.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even in my head, I was like, I still got a bit of fluff to shave, right? And so I didn't really want to pose in front of anybody. I didn't even really want to practice posing because it does not make me feel good about myself. It does not make me feel like, oh, I really want to get on stage in my underwear in front of a fucking thousand people.
Right.
That's not what occurs. What occurs is like, are you an idiot? Like, what are you thinking? So in my mind, I was like, sorry, somebody just commented something in YouTube. That's the only bitch about these lives. Like, I'm trying to keep track of whatever he's saying. But anyways.
Well, someone on Instagram just said you strip down and do it in the gym between sets. That's what
I mean, that is. I train at West Coast Iron. There's lots of dudes stripping down between sets. Well, and it's funny that my buddy Greg. Do you have volume turned on something, or is that me?
I've got my Instagram volume down as low as it can go, but it's still there, barely there.
I think it'll be fine.
Okay.
My buddy Greg was just commenting that I made this asshole post about people hanging on treadmills.
Right.
Because like one of my pet peeves in life is these morons who crank the treadmill up to like 15 incline and then hang on for dear life. And it's like, you're not doing anything. You are just go flat and let go is the same thing as incline and hang on. Like equal opposite force, Newton, like we covered all this in grade school. But funny, what I just went and bought myself today because I was sick of doing cardio, all my cardio at the gym.
I saw it. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Yep, I saw it on Instagram.
I got myself a new recumbent bike. I already did 40 minutes of cardio today. And here's the deal, man. Like cardio is getting to be such a big part of this. I have to do 35 minutes a day, 6 times a week. So I get to the gym and have to do 35 minutes cardio. And then I have to go do my workout. And with calories getting to the point where they are, it's like I'm getting like hypo. Like I get
Yeah.
the shakes after the cardio. And then I'm like, I'm supposed to go lift now. So the new routine is going to be do the cardio in the morning.
Yeah.
Make my coffee. It's pointed at the TV. I can come down here, just put on some like, YouTube shit,
Yeah.
sip my coffee, do just a light 35 minutes on the bike and kind of get warmed up.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, back to what we were saying about systems. So I didn't want to start posing. And then I knew this guy was a posing coach, and I just happened to see one of his posts the other day, and he mentioned that it was 17 weeks out to my show. And he said, like, not mine specifically, but he
Right.
said, this show's 17 weeks out. If you haven't started yet, now is when you need to start practicing posing. And he kind of laid out this little mini routine. And I
Right.
was like, that's it. I'm like, I got to start. And even just the half an hour that he spent with me, like, I felt very awkward. And it's like, I don't have to look good to feel better about this, like to feel more comfortable. And so, yeah, he taught me a bunch of stuff, and then he we set out a practice regimen. So I got to do 2 15-minute sessions a day, and there's different things I got to do during the different sessions. And even just having the system, I already feel more confident because I know just having the system is going to put me ahead of like what 60% of the competition.
Sure.
Like just right out of the gate, boom. I don't even got to worry about half you guys because I know you're not going to be this committed, even just to have a system. And then I think the more committed you get to the system, or the more intense you can get about stuff, the more you chip away. Like, oh, there's another 3% of the competition,
Yeah.
and there's another 7%. Like, I'm not a genetic freak, so like the only way I'm going to do good at this is just by working harder and being more disciplined.
Which is basically how you roll. Like that's been kind of like, I mean, just in our conversations over the last couple of years, is that you don't want the work ethic to be the thing that gets you. That's not going to be the thing that's going to be, where you fail. You're going to meet your potential in work ethic and effort. You're going to push it, maybe even try to push it beyond what you think is possible, because you have control over that, right? There are some things like genetic potential and all those things we don't have control over. So why would you leave the parts that you do have control over up to chance?
Yeah.
Right. So that's cool. And then systems, what it does for you, I also think mentally is incredible, because you're not having to, it just takes away used up mental space. Like you don't have to think about that. You can run it,
It's not a decision you need to expend energy to make again and again and again. You make it once, you put it on autopilot, and then you just execute.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So systems, I definitely, whether you're building a business, whether you're working on your archery shot, whatever the case may be, having a track to run on, that's already been laid. The foundation is there already. Maybe it's new for you, but you've got those grooves that you can kind of step into, and the mental aspect then feeds the physical, because the physical can then actually find out. It's not being limited by the mind. There's a common phrase that I like to toss out there, which is the mind always fails first. Like especially if we're talking about lifting, before your brain, your muscles fatigue, your brain has to go, I can't.
Right.
And the body matches the mind.
Yeah.
And so if you're pushing to failure on a set, we've all had that thought where you're like, I don't know if I can get this next rep up. And that's the beginning of the catastrophic unfolding of it. Right.
Yeah. Like if you take away that, it's funny because I can remember times, not just you, but like other people will get frustrated at me hunting because I'm not um like recontemplating the course of action.
Okay, yeah,
And it's like, no, because if I do, there's an opportunity I'll talk myself out of it. And
right.
if I don't open up even the opportunity to
Yeah,
rethink this path, then it's not even like I just have no choice but to keep going down the path.
correct.
Like there is no path forward if I only, and that's what I like about thinking about things as habits, because then if I don't have to make the decision, I don't have a chance to decide not to do it.
Correct. Yeah. It's really cool to take these thoughts and then start to almost blueprint them and then apply them in different areas of your life.
Yeah.
We can kind of bring this full circle. We kind of started that conversation about creativity. When you make it easier, because what you're doing there is you're actually just making it easier for you to succeed. You're making it easier for you to kind of move forward faster, quicker, more efficiently, whatever the case may be. Um, and in the creative process, people are second guessing themselves. That's all mental stuff. You don't even get to taking action, and you spend people, myself included. I've just kind of learned by watching myself. Is you can waste so much time thinking about things, whether or not you should do it, not doing it, that you never get to the learning part or the fun part or the finessing part, where it
Yeah.
starts to really become fun. You know, where you don't think, you just do. You don't think, you just do. And then all of those other nuances start to fill in the gaps. And you start to really pull ahead of everybody else just because you've done it so much more than everybody else.
Yeah.
Right. So
100%.
it's cool.
I was having this conversation with a client the other day. So there's this like 4-step process of mastery, and I can't remember the individual who did this, but it moves from unconscious incompetence.
Yes.
This is when we don't even know what we don't know. It
Right.
would be like if I went to go build a thermonuclear reactor. I
Yeah.
would be unconsciously incompetent. I don't even know what I don't know. And then we get to conscious incompetence. And this is
Mm-hmm.
where we start to build a little bit of knowledge and okay, so okay, now I know what I don't know. And then you get to conscious competence. And
Mm-hmm.
this is where I'd say most of us who feel like really proficient at things, like I think this is where I'm at with my archery.
Yep.
Um, you're really good at it, but you're still dedicating a lot of cognitive load. Like you're still thinking about what you're doing. And then you get to unconscious competence.
Competence. Yeah.
And this is mastery. This is flow zone, flow state, in the
Yep.
zone. This is Kelly Slater on a wave. This
Yeah.
is, you know what I mean? Like the list goes on and on and on. But this is that like fully actuated like potential. You know what I
That's
mean?
right. Yeah.
And that's when you're not even thinking about what you're doing anymore. And I think we all get like little glimpses of that when we're
Yeah.
in that like I've had that a couple of times with like I can say 2 or 3 archery shots have been like that for me. Like
Mm-hmm.
I where it wasn't that I blacked out because I can remember, and I think that's the difference for me is if you can remember what you did afterwards. Like there's a difference between blacking out and just not thinking about what you're doing,
Yep.
and having your systems take over and just execute for you. And I can think back, my Arizona buck at 55 yards really springs to mind. Like, I cannot communicate to you how certain I was that buck was going to die when
Yeah.
I pulled back on my hinge. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I literally did not have a single fiber of doubt in my body. Like, I knew, like, I could see the hair on the buck where the arrow was going to hit.
Yep.
And it was just like, it was just one of those perfect things, man. Like there was no, and it was, and Joel talks about this as well, but is when my mind, and that's why I'm not afraid to shoot with a hinge anymore, because as soon as my mind decided it was time to shoot, the hinge went off. Like
Yep.
there was no pullback anymore. There was no finish this, like it was just everything was ready, and it just happened, and it just
Yep.
went, and it was fucking perfect. 12 ringdom, it was, yeah, it was beautiful. And I have like little glimpses of that. I'm like, in no way, shape, or form am I there as an individual or as a hunter. But I think it's like you just need that one shot in golf to keep bringing you back.
That's right. I mean, you can practice over and over again, but it's those moments, those live moments that really solidify all of that practice. Like it's almost like it's not just the cherry on top. This is like it's the cementing of everything that you've done up to that point in time, because it's that validation, that verification that I'm not crazy. This
Yeah.
works. This
Yeah.
works in real life scenarios. And it's kind of like, okay, you can go through all the posing, but when it gets cemented for you is when you're on stage
Yeah.
and you're running that system, that blueprint. Like you've done it a million times already, but now you have the lights in your face. Now you have the heat of the atmosphere of the lights on your body. Right now you've got the ambient noise. You've got all that stuff, and your ability to tune all of that out and stay in your process in that moment is where it really gets cemented, I think. And that's the applications are endless for that, right? But particularly archery, I totally agree with you and feel the same way.
Well, it was funny. I think we tend to operate at about 75% of our peak capacity under pressure. And so, and I think this is why it's important, for instance, to shoot at longer ranges. Like, yeah, when I practice at 80, I'm not going to kill something at 80, but if I practice at 80, I can probably kill something at 50. I
Totally
really
agree.
do believe, like, that's, and I was telling this story on a podcast the other day when I used to practice for DJ competitions, and I lived in the West End. As such a psycho, I would open up all my windows in the wintertime, and my apartment would get so cold that my fingers would go numb.
Oh, there you go.
And trying to do like intricate juggling and scratching with records with numb fingers, it
Mm-hmm.
felt, and it happened by accident one time because I would go to these competitions and you feel like you have numb fingers because like there's so much pressure and like you feel like your fingers are dumb. It's the only way I can explain it.
Yeah.
And I came home from walking the dog one time and I started to scratch records and I was just like, oh, my fingers, they're not working. And then I was like, okay, so how do I use this? Because if I can perform at the level that I need to with these dumb fingers, do you know what
Yes.
I mean? Then
Yeah.
I can feel confident that I will carry a performance. And I think that happens to people in hunting all the time, man. Like, no offense, but like you go to Burnaby Lake and like shoot on the flats at 40 yards all day on only the sunny days. Do you know what I mean? And then
Totally.
think that you're going to go in the field
Yeah.
and smoke shit. It's like, no, it ain't going to happen, man.
No, you got
Like,
to
you
go
need
when
to
it's
be,
raining or when it's snowing out. I mean, some of the compliments I got, like, we've talked a bit about this before. So I bring my kids out to the Burnaby flat field because it's easy for them. It's easy. I can
of
manage a lot
course.
more, right? So it's just the
Yes.
logistics. But I remember the first time that, so my wife got into shooting. She shoots a stick bow as well. And we had just had our fourth. So Gemma would have been like an infant, and she had her in a baby carrier on her back. It was snowing, and Christina's at full draw
With a
firing at her
baby.
with a baby on her back. And there were some ladies
Dude,
there. They're going, "Oh my gosh, your wife's a real badass! Like, how the
that's
hell?"
one
And
bad
we've got some
lady.
awesome photos of that. Meanwhile, for me, I've got three other little ones on the ground, and I'm like, I got to get them shooting first because I want to make sure they get their shots in, and then
Yeah.
I'm using that for pressure for me because now I'm the last person shooting on the
Yes.
line, and there's
Yes.
40 other people there that are looking at me going, when is this dude gonna let that arrow go? And I'm like Joel says, you start to seek stressful situations. You start to
Yeah.
look for those things because it's so hard to replicate an animal standing in front of you.
Can't, man.
You can't do it. You
No.
just can't. And so any distraction or stressful situation. So when it starts snowing or hailing here, I thankfully have been able to shoot at the side of the house. When I get to do that, um, when I get those opportunities, I'm grabbing my bow and I'm running outside
Right.
and then I'm not throwing a jacket on. I have no hair. So water on my head or cold on my head or on my ears really bothers me a lot.
Yeah.
Like it's so annoying. I've got a long beard now and it gets frizzled in the rain. And I've had a couple of times where the string hits it and there's pain there that's associated even in the draw because I'm drawing all the way. I shoot my thumb. I'm drawing all the way past my face.
Yeah.
And so all of those things are fighting to get into my mind. But all of those things can be used for concentration practice. Every one of them, can you tune all of that nonsense, all that crap out and be so so laser focused and determined in the shot that none of those things are going to take. So I've tried to duplicate as many of those things, but they don't come close to what's actually happening physiologically in your body,
Yeah.
when you've got an animal in front of you. So
Yeah, Dan talked about it, Elk Shape, on our podcast as well. He's a big fan of talking a lot of shit too,
mm,
because you're backing yourself into a corner. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
And they bet a lot, and probably not a lot. I'm not talking a lot of money. He's a man of faith too, so everything is like, I'm sure, tempered to a certain degree.
Sure.
But he's trying to increase just the general level of stress any way he can when when he's practicing.
Absolutely.
And I
Yeah.
like I wish we had some like the tack or some of those like cooler weekend ski hill 3D shoots.
Yeah.
Maybe the border will open up, and
Way able to get
I'd love to be able to get down
have you done
south
any
for one of
shoots
those.
down in Washington?
Dude, I've never even done an ash shoot
Oh, okay.
ever.
Yeah. So I would say that just the one just right across the border from us. When I met Joel and we just started to build a friendship, I was going down, 2-3 times a year for 3D shoots down there, because I didn't even know that there were 3D shoots up in Vancouver,
Right.
and I kind of cut my teeth on 3D shoots down there. And when I came to Vancouver, they were super easy because down there, which I think is fascinating and fabulous, is really smart. All of their hunting rut seasons are archery only
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah.
So if you want to harvest an animal during the easiest time, you've got to pick the most
You
challenging equipment. So
100%.
everybody shoots a bow, everybody.
Yeah.
And in addition to them shooting, um, they're there's so many people that show up to their 3D shoots that they have to make them complicated. They have to make them hard. They have to make
Right.
them challenging. Whereas here, we're okay. We're not really that challenging, but somebody that I was following on there was a 3D shoot actually this weekend, which I wasn't able to attend um, because of a prior commitment. But someone I was following, and they commented, "Oh, this is one of the most challenging shoots that I've been to in a long while." And it was on Ridgedale. It was just basically on the side of a mountain. You're hiking a course and you're shooting. It's great. It's fantastic practice. It's awesome. But I've shot that shoot many times, and I will say that, like, if you go to the Tacoma Sports Club in Washington, their 40 targets are easily 2 or 3 times harder. Like they've got a target sitting in the middle of a little lake that's spinning, a little frog that's spinning in the middle of a lake. Okay. And there's a way to get to the lake all the way around to go get
Right. Right.
your arrows, but you have to hit the center of the frog on its front face,
Yeah.
not on its back. So you can imagine, like, your shot control goes out the window because now you're timing. It's an uncontrolled shot. You're timing this thing,
Yeah.
and if you miss, it's going in the drink, and you're not getting your arrow back. Like,
Yeah.
it's done. And there's several things like that that just make it so flippin' challenging, but it's great because that messes with your. I mean, it's just like if you've ever done any golf, they just put a water trap there, and I don't know what it does. It
Dude, it's
just
like a
messes.
magnet.
Like, so having those stressful situations or anything that can just distract you enough is so good. But weather, I think, is probably the easiest one to take advantage of. Go on the crappy days.
Yeah.
Wherever you've got a membership, don't go on the sunny days. And I mean, granted, take that with a grain of salt. If you're tuning, obviously you want
Yeah.
the best days to figure those things out. But if you're there to practice, it's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows when you're out in the field. So
No.
why wouldn't you replicate the conditions, the worst possible conditions, and give yourself the best kind of practice, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny you bring up the water trap. So I was taking we got a couple tennis courts here at a park over by the house, and after school, I normally take my daughter over there to ride her bike. And she kept like getting like just so close to these tennis posts for the nets
Mm-hmm.
that she would have to stop, like she was about to ram into them.
Mm-hmm.
And we had this like really teachable moment because I was like, this sounds so simple, it's ridiculous, but I was like, you need to look at where you want to go, not where you don't want to go.
Yes.
And I said, right now you're getting close to these things and they're scaring the shit out of you, so you're staring at them, and not inappropriately, because you're thinking, I need to know where I am in relation to this so I don't hit it. But psychologically, as soon as you focus your attention on it everything about you is taking you to that. So I'm like, and what I did is I went on the other side and I stood between the posts behind them.
Yeah.
And I said, just look at me in the
Bingo.
eye. And like a laser beam, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
no wavering, no
Yep.
nothing. And it's like, I think we need to be reminded of that sometimes. It's so simple, but like focus on what you want. Don't focus on the inverse. Don't focus on not doing what you don't want. And I think
Yep.
it's very hard. Like it's a simple thing to say, and I think it's a more difficult thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like saying, people who go skiing downhill super fast, like don't
Yes,
hit the trees, don't hit the trees. Don't. That's focusing on the inverse.
exactly.
And that's not helpful at all, because what your mind is then, the words that you're feeding your brain are tree, and what your eyes are then associating with are tree, and then all
Yeah,
you see are the trees.
100%.
So
So we haven't talked about Bodie since
yeah.
what a dude.
He's a stud. He's a
That kid
flipping
is
stud.
insane, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens when you got Steven Seagal for a father. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yep. Totally.
for anybody listening who doesn't know, both Dylan and I share a friendship with Joel Turner, who runs Shot IQ and a bunch of other stuff. Great guy, an
Mm-hmm.
interesting individual to say the least, and somewhat polarizing, but just amazing with what he's willing to share for his knowledge. And what was it, Vegas? Like his kid won. Well, first he got, was it like the third 630 30s or something at the
Yeah,
Lancaster?
that's right.
And
He's like
then
one
he
of 3 people to pull that off. Yeah.
ever,
Ever.
ever. And the kid's what, 15?
15 years old.
And he's going against like full blown adults.
Yeah. And people who are actually professional, competitive archers.
Yeah. Been
Like,
doing
this
it
is
for
what
decades.
they do for a living.
And kid is smoking these dudes.
Yeah.
Like, and he's not, like, you wouldn't look at this guy and say athlete. Like, to
Right.
me, it's even a stronger argument for how much more of a mental game archery is than a physical game.
Right.
Like, he looks like he's still in good enough shape and everything. Like, he's not, but he does not, doesn't look like a Josh Bomar or like
No.
like he's not this like
No.
jacked kid or,
No.
and he doesn't come off as like crazy confident or
he doesn't
super
talk
cocky.
smack or anything like
No.
that. No, he's just a regular dude. Like, he's just a regular kid. That's who he is.
And then what was it? And then he won the big one down in Vegas, whatever that is. It's like Vegas. Like
it's Vegas. It's
Vegas.
One of the largest.
I don't even know what to say to that, man.
I mean, think if you want to put it in terms of like, some people place value based on monetary value. The dude won like $75,000. Are
you serious?
No, I'm not joking. That's actually, there's pictures. If you go on his Instagram profile, you can actually see all the checks you added up, 75 grand US.
Wow.
From that one tournament. Yeah. So it's no small deal. Like it's a really big deal. I think my Instagram just shut off here. Shoot. Sorry. You might have to invite me back on.
I can do that.
You know what I'm going to do? Hang on. Before you invite me back on, sorry to do this. I'm going to stop my phone's auto shutting off. That's what it is. So I'm going to just stop it from doing that, and then we'll be fine.
No problem.
Let's go auto lock to never, and then that should fix it.
Let me know when you're ready for an invite.
Okay. Should be okay. There we are. Okay, should be good to go now. Let's see if it's coming back on. Go live. There we go. Beauty. Okay, we're back on.
Bam.
So yeah, the dude completely, like he crushed it. He killed it, and it was like you could just watching him, you could go, he's like an impenetrable fortress in his mind.
Yeah.
Nothing is getting in there. No. And the only times that, like, when stuff would happen where you could kind of see almost that just this human touch come back was after a shot. He'd look at his dad, and his dad would just like there was that like, you got this, like keep going. And it was just like stay in it. That was all it was. And I mean, I'm getting shivers talking about it. Like, I'm so happy for him.
I almost broke down and had to cry. Like, because I know Joel and I know how intense he is.
Yeah.
And I was just like, just to see how much somebody cares, and like,
Yeah.
it's like a Gretzky and his dad type of thing. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like
Yeah.
I like, it's just, it made me want to do better as a father. Like, I
Oh,
don't think
yeah.
my kid's gonna be winning Vegas, but I'm like, I can do better. I like, we can, without being like crazy and like having her hate me as a
Yep. Yeah,
later
absolutely.
on in life. I'm sure there's some room for improvement here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
Totally.
we can spend an extra 20 minutes at the tennis court with the bicycle. You know what I mean? Like,
Totally.
yeah, it
Totally.
motivated the shit out of me
Totally.
as a father.
Yeah. Just the level of belief that you have in your kids,
Yeah.
just that it's such a huge confidence booster. And I had the exact same feeling. I was like, man, I could definitely step up with my boys, with my daughter. Like, it's just these things. And then you start to realize that it's actually not that hard if you care.
Yeah.
If you care about it
Yes.
and you start thinking about it, you're like, it's not like I'm starved for ideas or something.
Yeah.
But just that little bit of motivation was just like, it just got me thinking about what could I be doing better? Where am I not playing to the best of my ability with my children or with my archery or whatever? It's not like we don't know what we need to do.
Yeah.
We could definitely come up with ways to do better. So yeah, I was on the phone with them. We were chatting, and I was chatting with Sarah, his wife, because Joel was not even on his phone. Like, he was so in it there, and I
Yeah.
was texting back and forth with her, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then after it kind of all subsided, you realize what had just happened. It was just like, I need to talk to Joel. Like, I just need to. I more than anything, I just wanted to go give him a hug, and that's probably like the first thing I do when I go see him. Is just like, I just want to go give him a big hug. I'm like, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of. It's huge vindication for him too, because he's had a
Yeah.
lot of people throw him and his system under the bus for whatever the reason may be.
Yeah.
I don't want to necessarily name any people or even try to think about what what the reasoning behind that is. But he's not had it easy in terms of just putting his system out there, and he's been at this for a while. He's been at
Long
Shot
time.
IQ for a while,
Yeah.
and this was kind of like this. It's like the perfect. It's that point in the story. It's like the perfect rescue in every great story where you finally reach that. There was, I don't know whether we're going to be able to come out of this, and then you come over the crest. You're just like, I can't believe we just did it.
Yeah.
We just did it. So it's just this culmination of so many emotions, so many things. And if anyone who's listening who doesn't know the Shot IQ system, um, I would tell you, like, it has completely changed not just my archery, it's changed my life. Because, like I was mentioning before, it's cool to take these blueprints and then apply them into different areas of your life.
Yeah.
Taking the Shot IQ system and applying it to different areas of your life is so powerful. If I'm going to spend time, let's say that I come home from work and it's a long day, I'm going to go spend time with my family. Why would I hope that the next 4 hours with them goes well?
Right.
Why would I leave that up to chance? Why would I not make some really determined decisions and have a game plan of, no matter what happens? It might be a complete mess in the house. The kids might be at each other's throats. It could be a whole bunch of things. And I could either show up into that situation and flip out about everything, or I could show up and go, I'm going to turn all of this into fun. I'm going to show up and I'm going to enter into this, and I'm going to take it and make it the absolute best that it could possibly be, no matter what. Like, when you start making decisions like that about how you live your life, all of a sudden life becomes more fun, because you're not going to be fazed by stress anymore. You're almost welcoming it to a certain degree. You're like, I got this.
Yeah.
I got this. This isn't that big of a deal. We tend to take things a little bit too seriously sometimes, and pour gasoline on a fire rather than diffusing situations, simply because we made excuses and we didn't make any decisions, right? So
Yeah.
you can take that and apply it. So if anybody here who's like questioning it, I'd say go check it out. At the very least, go read his book. If you don't want to pay for his course, which I think is, hands down probably the more than the course, if you can't get to him to do a workshop, because that for me is like transformational. Can't do that, at the very least read the book, or just go scratch the itch, go take a listen, because he's his 15-year-old son just did something that nobody else has been able to do. So
Yeah, it's got to be like by a long shot the youngest dude to ever win that thing. Has to be.
Absolutely.
Has
Yeah.
to be.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, man. All right. All
Shivers.
right, let's get into some questions. I got some questions here.
Sure.
Um, do you, this is I'm kind of curious. Do you fish?
Yeah. A
Okay.
little bit.
So what do you do?
Fly fishing. Um,
Okay. Of
so
course
I've
you
done,
do. You trad bow stick hunting dick. You got you got to fly fish. Of
yeah.
course you do because like it'd be far too easy to actually do something that wasn't
Okay. Look,
a pain in the ass.
um, so I really enjoy trout fishing off of a lake somewhere here in BC. Shall
Okay.
remain nameless. Um, and believe it or not, I'd only started doing it about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And I had been I've been crabbing. I've been doing a whole bunch of other things. I was interested in it just as through high school, but I when I discovered fly fishing, and I thought it was beyond me when I discovered it, and I had a friend's dad. We were visiting with them at their cabin. There was a lake by their cabin. He's like, no, it's not that difficult. And he's like, here, I'll lend you a rod, lend you some waders. Let's go, right? And we go out to this lake, and all of a sudden, I'm catching fish off the fly, and I'm like, this is incredible. Where have I been my entire life? Like, it's so much fun. Absolute, like, it blew me away. I had to go get my own rod. I started practicing. I started doing all this stuff, and so yeah, so that's kind of where that came from.
All
So
right.
so you had a question about do you fish? So yes,
Yeah.
that was the answer. Yeah. Do
I
you?
I don't. I want to. Um, I'd like to get into something that I don't need to like need a bunch of infrastructure for, like a big boat or something like that. And especially because of my daughter, I'd like to be able to, because I think in a lot of ways it's an easier step to get into fishing than it is to get into hunting. Like I think it's a better gateway.
Totally.
I've heard from just a lot of sources. Um, so I've done my fair share of fishing. Did some fishing with my dad and my grandpa as a kid, like lake fishing in Ontario. Did some like river fishing in your sneakers as a teenager. I've done some ocean fishing, maybe half a dozen times, but they've always been like with other people. Like I wouldn't have the foggiest notion, like what to go buy or where to go. So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff on the plate this year, but it's definitely something that I need to. I'm going to look for some mentorship in, and I do need to get out and learn how to go fishing.
Well, there's if you're trying to do stuff with kids, there's a couple of places where it's kind of locally. Actually, I'll send you a message later.
Okay.
Um, just because I don't want to interrupt the live stream on Instagram, but
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
couple of places locally where you can actually come in. There's stock lakes, and you can give your kids a very awesome first experience with fishing.
Right.
Or you could do it the hard way, which is what I dummy me. You can go and figure out when all the stocking reports are at the local lakes
Yeah.
because BC Fisheries puts that all up, and so a lot of lakes are stocked. And you can try to get in there kind of the day of or the day after when they've just been stocked or within a few days after, and go in even just with a like a $10 Walmart rod,
Yeah. Yeah.
and go in there and try your luck at it. It'll be it's not. I have not caught as much fish as I have gone fishing. Like it's very there's a carryover to hunting. The most fish that I've ever caught have been in the interior lakes in British Columbia, just because nobody else goes there.
Right.
Like there's a lot of pressure locally, but doesn't mean that you can't go out and still have a good time. That's why I'm suggesting there's a couple of places which are private, which they stock them, and they're you're pretty much guaranteed to catch fish, but you're really paying for your fish. Like it's
Yeah.
$10 if you catch a fish, and you can't clean it there. You got to bring it home and go through that process and all that other stuff. But it's still it's a fun experience to get a fish online. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think that I've done some ocean salmon fishing and just on some of the rivers, and I filled the freezer a couple of years in a row, and that's been good to just have some salmon there. But I'm by no means an avid fisherman. I mean, I got a boat last year, so there might be some opportunities to kind of pick that up. I picked up a Striker, which is a Zodiac type boat, pontoon
Okay.
style boat, and my plan for this year actually it should be probably April. I'll be out on the water in it, planning to do some crabbing and some prawning. and try my hand at maybe some ocean salmon. We'll see. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
All right.
I gotta admit, I actually picked that up because mostly for the family. I just wanted to be able to
Sure.
get out on the water with my family. Because I've been out on the water. I've done some sailing stuff in the past before, but I've never been able to pass that on. And
Right.
I figured this would be a really easy way, safe way to be able to then just continue to fill the freezer,
Right.
So yeah.
I bought a pack raft,
Hey,
kind of for, and it's like I wanted it for my sheep hunt, and then I got looking at them and realized that there was kind of like a hybrid tandem version that was like kind of big enough.
did
Well,
you go
it was.
alpaca or did
I
you which?
I did.
Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah, and I got the Explorer 42, which
Yes.
is like it's their smallest tandem, so it's enough for like an adult and a child, or
Yeah.
an adult and a pet. And I thought to myself, because like they're not cheap,
No.
and it was like it's a little bit much for me to just have it and maybe use it once a year for hunting. But I was like, we go truck camping at all these little lakes,
Yep.
and we always see people in their kayaks. And again, I could literally go buy a little tackle kit at Canadian Tire and a little $10 Shimano reel, and at least now we can use this little alpaca raft to get us out into the middle
Totally.
of the lake, and we can just putt around out there and throw it out a couple times. Maybe we catch something, maybe we don't. It's not really the point. It's
No.
just to like bring a little more variety
Totally.
to the camping trip, and it's small and easy to get around, and don't need to put it on top of the truck. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm kind of excited. I think she'll have a blast, man.
Yeah. No, that's been in a cart that I've not pulled the trigger on for a little
Yeah,
while now. And I almost built one. There's a
the
guy.
guy in BC. The thing
Yes.
is I tried, but his stuff's always out of stock, and it's like
Yeah. Dude, and
yeah,
I know someone who built one and it took a long time. And they
yeah,
got it. It's just it's one of those like, okay, I'm not really saving any money and I am spending a ton of time to do
yeah,
this. So it kind of balances out, and for that at that point, unless you really enjoy the DIY aspect of things,
yes.
you kind of lean towards, and alpacas just they're the ones that, hands down, that's where you go. So
Well, if you need to borrow the Explorer 42, just let me know.
okay, well, if I'm doing any backcountry stuff anytime soon where crossing a body of water is,
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
and I have experience, I've got the wigs
we do
and
have experience.
we've got the
Yeah,
wigs to do that, and now a pack raft. So
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Do you wish you lived somewhere hunting was more accessible?
Yes and no. And
Okay.
I'll answer. I mean, so I've thought about this a lot. Okay,
Well, you were looking pretty hard.
I still am.
Okay.
Still am looking. Um, there is it's one of those things. But it goes back to the conversation we were having earlier about what am I actually in control of.
Okay.
There's no point wasting mental energy on things that we cannot control.
Agreed.
So I should. So the no part is I should take what's in front of me and make it the absolute best that it can possibly be. So
Right.
that's one half of the equation. The other half, the yes part, is by the same token, it's not a closed door that I couldn't be in another place, whether that's in another province or south of the border or wherever the case may be. Okay. So if I'm not finished fully exploring that, where I have a complete and hard and definite no, I should continue to explore that. And not just, like from the standpoint of, oh, it sucks here and I wish I was somewhere else. Not from that. It's like, no, if you really want that, well, then go through the steps to explore making that a reality. And if
Right.
it's maybe not something that you can, like, maybe you're not going to move to do that. Maybe it's the stuff that you and I had talked about. Like originally we were supposed to go to Idaho.
Yeah.
Those opportunities are still there to a certain
100%.
degree.
And well, back kind of now, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully pretty soon here we'll be able to go and do all of those things again. But it's one of those things where you have to look at it and going, before I answer the question, I'm asking myself, am I being a victim here, or am I going to be a victim of my circumstances or a victor of my
Right.
circumstances? And I want to be able to answer, yes, I want to go and explore those things because I'm enamored by people that are, you know, uh, wake up like you did in New Mexico, to screaming bulls all around you, um, versus, I want to have that experience. So go
Yeah.
get that experience. Go find out what it takes and then save the money and then go do it.
Yeah.
And if it's really that important to you, then move, find a way to do it, which go talk to an immigration lawyer, go figure out how that could be possible.
Right.
Yeah.
I looked at it a little bit simpler. Like, do I wish I lived in the interior, for example?
Oh, okay.
Simply because it's closer. Or you look at the guys who live up in Fort St. John. You know how easy it would be to go scouting for sheep on the weekend.
Yeah.
Um, and the answer is yes. Personally, if I didn't have to look at any of the other elements of my life, I do wish um, I lived somewhere closer, where like hunting was closer. Um, but with the other elements of my life, it's just like there'd be too many compromises.
Yeah.
Like my wife is a hardcore city dwelling female. Like
Yeah.
it ain't. We couldn't even do Fort Langley. She lived out there for 2 years, and it was like she just
No.
about imploded. And the added benefit of being in the city is that she is more than okay with me being gone more.
Yeah.
And so the
Yeah.
funny thing is, I would rather live in the city and do my 4 or 5 big trips a year than live in Fort St. John and have to do all my hunting on the weekends.
Yeah.
So it's also counterintuitive that way. So I think the other thing you want to ask yourself is like, what type of hunting is most important to you? Like that was something I learned because we were living out in Fort Langley and I was doing a shitload of day hunting for blacktail and Chilliwack. And it was just like, it doesn't scratch the itch the same way for me. Like I like it and I want to do more of it specifically this year. But if I look at like what shapes me as a human being, it's those big adventure hunts. Like
Yeah.
that's what I like I like looking forward to them. I like having those like pinnacle moments.
Well,
I like
Mindful
the
Hunter has been
planning.
built off of those trips.
100%.
They built
Yeah.
you, and you built Mindful Hunter out of that, right? So
Yeah.
you kind of have to give credit where it's due. It's what it was meant to be for you, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, this next guy was like kind of busting my balls, but I'm actually going to answer it in a serious fashion. So he asked, "How do I get the confidence to post pictures in my underwear?"
That's a great
Uh,
question.
and I do think it's a great question because um, it's probably not something I would have been comfortable with before. But I think the bigger question for me is like, what level of transparency do you want to embrace with the part of yourself that you share with the rest of the world? And however, is that on social media? Is it just in conversations with visiting with friends and family? Like we make these decisions like how much are you going to let other people in? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it was funny that you mentioned that you think the adventure hunts are like what built Mindful Hunter. The other thing that I would add for that, what's built Mindful Hunter is like, I'm not Remy Warren. I'm not, there's dudes in like the come out heavy guys. I was just talking with,
Yeah.
in fact, they were the
Yeah.
ones that posted this question. Like those dudes are studs, man. I'm not
Yeah.
killing what those guys are killing. Like I built Mindful Hunter on this like authentic transparency. Like I'm at where I'm at. I'm as good as I am, but I'm going to be really honest about where I'm at and what I'm doing to get someplace else. Because what is really interesting to me is that we talked about these 4 stages of competence earlier. I think the people who have achieved unconscious competence are not the best teachers because
Okay.
some of them aren't. I'm
Yeah.
not going to make a blanket statement, but not all of those people actually make good teachers because I don't think they think about what they're doing anymore.
I totally agree with you. They're cognitive. They're cognitively disconnected.
Yeah. They just do. So they look at you and they're like, well, just do what I do. And I'm like, well, I don't even know what you do. Like, I don't know how to
Yeah.
do what you do.
Yeah.
I need you to tell me. And then the things that they do think about are so far past
Yeah.
where I'm at that I can't even like
Yeah.
I can't connect.
Can't
So
even
I
see the
think
path to get there, right?
no.
Like
Yeah.
the people that are cognitively aware and they're competent of it, what they're spending the vast majority of their time doing for themselves is taking the complicated and simplifying it to such a degree that they can then explain it to somebody else. That's such a fascinating way to teach and to learn. Like the best teachers are the ones that can take complicated subjects and simplify them down so that like, a 5-year-old could understand
A
what's
hundred
going
percent.
on, right? And
Yeah.
so The only people that can do that are the ones that are cognitively in the process. You
Yes.
can't do that unconsciously. You
No, and I
have
think
to.
there's rare dudes. Do you know what I mean? Like, I might have my issues with him, but I think somebody like Dudley
Yeah,
has
yeah,
spent so much time kind of crafting or honing his craft as a teacher, um, that he is a guy when it comes to shooting, he has achieved, I would argue, unconscious competence. He's a
yeah,
master in his field, but he's also a good teacher.
yeah,
So I do think there's rare exceptions, but I think in the general, as a general rule, you don't want people who are so far elevated past where you're at that they don't relate to where
yeah.
you're, because you're not
Totally
going to
agree.
be as connected. So the way that all ropes back in is that, I'm 43 and I think I'm just now honestly at the point where I really don't give a shit. Like I don't care what happens when I put a picture up in my underwear on Instagram. I really don't give a shit. Um, I feel like I made a commitment to authentically share the process from A to B, and I'm gonna do that. And so that to me is more of the, I guess, the rationale or the reasoning behind why I do it. Like there's not some superficial like incentive. It's really like it truly and honestly is about like I feel comfortable with who I am. I said I was going to share a journey, so I'm going to share the journey, and you're going to get
So
to
I'm
see
I'm
like,
gonna ask you a question.
yeah,
You're probably, as you're talking, this is really connecting with me. A couple of really key points that not caring specifically involves, but not what caring what other people think of you or how they view you.
right,
Right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Right?
yeah,
Like you,
yeah,
okay? Because when people start caring about how they're seen,
yes,
then that they've elevated that and they've given that more importance over the accomplishment of the goal or
and
the
that's what
number of.
youth is. That's what youth is. Like if we look at our effort and we say, okay, we have 100% of effort, right, and then we choose how much of this are we going to dictate. The problem in youth is that you spend, and let's just pick some numbers, 50% of your effort on actually trying to achieve something, and
Mhm,
50% of your effort managing the perceptions of everyone around you.
right.
And all you have really done, practically speaking, is reduce the amount of effort put
That's
towards
right.
the actual goal by
50%.
50%.
Exactly.
And
Totally.
now a bunch of people think a bunch of shit. Maybe they
Yep.
do, maybe they don't. You still don't even know.
And what effect does it have on your life?
Yeah,
Like, honestly, do you
zero.
think it does it? Right?
None.
Like, it's not like these
None.
people are going to come and pay your bills. It's not like these
No.
people are. It's like it.
It's
It doesn't.
all in your mind. But then
Bingo.
when you free yourself from that and you free yourself, and like I'm not gonna lie, like I'm not gonna say I don't care about what people think
We're
about me.
still human.
I'm a man in integrity. I
That's
want to
right.
be seen as an honorable like I care that you respect me. Like I want
Yes.
to that I care about. But like the other shit that we're talking about here, you know what I mean? Like the stuff that's out of my control, like I am free from that. Like I don't like it was hilarious. My wife, she goes to like these business dinners and they hang out with like it's like a pretty liberal crowd because she's in publishing. And she gets back and she's like, it's crazy. Every time I'm at these like these like business dinner party things at restaurants, and like everybody wants to know what my husband does. And I just start telling them all the things you do. And like all the men at the table just lean in. And they're like, he does what?
What?
He
Yep.
gets to what? And I'm like, yeah, because I don't give a shit anymore, man. Like, there are
Yep.
things that bring me joy that make
Yep.
me feel like a self-actualized human being. And I've
Yep.
realized the more of those things I have in my life, the better a man I am. So
Bingo.
now it's like I don't yeah, I'm just gonna do those things and I'm gonna have to sacrifice some shit elsewhere. But it's like I do kind of feel like I'm living the life now that I fantasized about when I was
And
a
shouldn't that
teenager.
be
Like
shouldn't that be the case for everybody?
100%.
Like if you're not, I think that's a really good point. If you're currently right now not chasing or existing in or living in that life that you've been dreaming about as a teenager, even maybe even younger, or just a little bit like, through university or whatever, then why not?
Yeah.
Why aren't you pursuing that?
And be willing to do the, like, I don't want to get on some Gary V tip because I think he does go a little bit. I'm more pro Gary V than anti Gary V, but I think he goes a little bit far sometimes. But it's like I still have a full time job.
Mm-hmm.
I still
Yeah.
need to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sitting here doing a podcast with you at
9:30.
8:30 at night. I
Yeah.
shoot my YouTube videos on the weekend in my studio. Like, it's not like I'm some like magic wand
No.
got waved and I can just do all this cool shit. Like, I think you have to be willing to like put that extra effort in order to get those
100%.
extra things kind of
100%.
back. You know what
It's
I mean?
really, there's a lot of people don't people don't either appreciate it, they don't understand the behind the scenes that's involved, the amount of scheduling that's involved, the amount of discipline that's involved, and like,
Yeah.
saying yes to things means I'm saying no to other things, and just being that aware of your calendar, because that's actually how things happen. It's like, if you care enough about it, it goes on your calendar. You talk to your spouse about it, you talk to your kids about it, you make sure that there's time. And if you are taking time away from one thing, with, let's say, with your family, that you're going to then make up for it in some other area. And it's not going to be perfect, it's never going to be balanced, there's going to be some give and take all the time, but that's actually how progress is made with all of these sorts of things. And I'm the same way. There's people have said to me, it's like, oh, you're just talented, or it must be really easy, or it must be really nice. Like, I'll working on a project, or I'm doing something, I'll take a picture and I'll share it with someone. They're like, how do you get all this stuff done? I'm like, well, I'm actually just really ruthless with my calendar.
Yeah.
That's actually what it really comes down to. And not caring about how I'm seen. I don't care. I don't actually care, because unless you start paying my bills, I don't care what you think. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to go do what's best for me and my family, what's going to make me the most virtuous husband and father. Those are the things that matter to me, you know? So all of that other stuff, if you're elevating, so back to that, how do you take pictures of yourself in your underwear and post on Instagram? Well, are you doing it for the authenticity and the benefits that come with that, by the way, is that you've taken your excuse away, because you've now publicly declared to the
Yeah.
world what you're going to do, and it keeps you accountable. That's another
Commitment
byproduct.
device, man.
It's
It's so powerful. And I
so
love
powerful.
I love using that stuff. It's like once you speak it into existence,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it becomes, there's a different level of real.
Yeah, totally. And then you just follow through on it. You're like, the only way that I'm going to get forward, to get to my destination, is if I just continue with the plan. I just keep moving forward with the plan and documenting instead of trying to fabricate it or manifest it. That's another really cool thing, is that so I've taken pictures of myself, I posted them on online forums, like, because I'm a generally a pretty skinny and scrawny dude. I've been my entire life, hard gainer. And last year I decided I wanted to see if I could actually eat 3,000 calories a day and what difference that would make. Got myself all the way up to 170, I think is what I weighed by the middle of the summer. And then ended up losing all of it, basically. And when I got sick over the winter, I lost everything. So now I'm like building back up from scratch, it would seem. But that process of publicly declaring it and proving and telling everybody this is what I was doing, and having people think I'm crazy or whatever, I was just documenting. That's all I was doing. I'm treating my body like a science experiment almost,
Right.
So when I post this picture, or when I give an update, or when I do these things, it's actually not for you. I'm now providing a database or collection, verification almost, that it can be done.
Yeah.
Watch these transformations take place and pay attention to them. So there's so much more than the opinion of other people or how you're seen by other people. There's so many more benefits than there are drawbacks by doing that.
Yeah.
So
100%, man. Okay, we'll do two more. Do you run, and I can ask this verbatim because I know what you run. Do you run your Hilleberg with a footprint?
yes, I do.
You do? Oh, this is good because I don't. So I want to know. Talk me through that. Why?
So the reason why I bought the underneath the footprint just as an option, and I figured if I didn't use it, then I could sell it. Like they're the other people that are using them. So and then the idea was I wanted to have something that could be so versatile that I could discard what I didn't want and keep what I wanted. So when we were up in the north, and we were in the megatarp. That was my first time, my first experience with the floorless shelter,
Right.
and I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be able to recreate that. So by taking out the inner tent from the Hilleberg,
Yes.
you basically have the
A
same thing.
floorless shelter.
You have a floorless shelter. It's perfect.
Yep.
And then you could put the inner tent. That's great. And then what I was finding is on one of my other trips, I ended up on the inner tent. I was really concerned about it tearing because
Okay.
it didn't. Not that it didn't feel that it was durable, but I was camping, or I'd set up my tent in a place where there was a lot of sharp stuff all over the place. And I had a tarp and I threw it underneath, and I said, this is kind of a pain because it was then shifting and moving and doing all this other stuff. I had no way of actually pegging it down. It says, Hilleberg's thought of this already. They already
Right.
have that durable, like it's actually significantly more durable than just a
And then
tarp.
the right. Okay.
And the inner tent, then the inner tent.
Yes.
So I said, well, okay, and this is attached and it's pretty easy to get off if I didn't really need it.
Yep.
So I just figured, well, what the heck, I'll just buy it and run a couple of trips with it. And I've loved it. I just haven't taken it off yet. Now, if I needed
Sure.
to shave weight, it would be easy. I could gut the entire everything and just have a floorless shelter, and I'm still good to go. So that was basically the thing behind it. So that's why I'm running it that way right now.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense, man. I haven't because I've always tried to well, I shouldn't say always, but the that particular shelter is exclusively for backcountry use. So it just wouldn't make sense to carry the additional weight. The truck camping tent that I have, the Big Agnes, I think it's called the Big Cabin 4. It's just like a big square brick shithouse. It's huge that
Yeah.
I take my daughter camping in. It has a footprint, and I think it actually helps reduce condensation as well. Um, so and I like it. I think it's great for
You
the
have a
same reason.
solo
I have a
and
solo and I have
and
a NIAC.
yeah. So I have um the um
Nalo.
the Nalo GT2.
Yeah.
So it's a palace for me, and it's
Now, does the
primarily
footprint go out under the
it goes past
vestibule?
the vest. Yeah, no, it doesn't go past the vestibule. The vestibule is huge. It goes out past the inner tent. So when you get in,
Does it go in the vestibule?
yes,
Okay, that's very interesting because that that's significantly different than just going under the tent itself.
yeah, no, it's
Like
this is
now
it
you
goes
essentially have a whole extended tent area.
correct.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, you have it, and it's actually it's nice to keeping your gear
Especially with
off the
your
ground.
kids, right? Because like
Yeah,
if they had their shoes off and stuff, they're literally like all in that whole area and you're fine.
yes, exactly. So
Yeah.
that was that kind of the reason. Now, if which I'm still considering going down to the NIAC, there's absolutely no reason why I think I would need that.
Yeah.
This was mostly for like, okay, this is a truck camping tent, the one that
Yes.
I'm running.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be at the most a day away from the truck, and I'm
Yeah.
not really going that far into the backcountry. So I'm okay carrying a little bit of extra weight. And if it really comes down to it, I could gut the entire inside, and now I have like it's not the Kifaru Megatarp, but it's the closest thing that I can get to it.
Right.
With the floorless shelter, if I gutted everything on the inside and just ran it like that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
And
badass.
weight wise, actually, when you take out it's actually quite light. Um, when you take out the inner tent and there's it's a lot of space in there. The Nalo GT2 when you take out
That's
the
a
inner
big
tent.
tent, man. That's what Spencer and Tristan were running um, when we um,
You guys went on
yeah, we
your
went on a
sheep
sheep
trip.
hunt.
Yeah.
It's a great tent, man. I thought it was
Mm-hmm.
great. Um, okay, we're gonna skip the next one because I just got a battery warning from my laptop and I got too many things plugged in. So I got a little
Okay.
bit of time, but there's a couple things I want to say um, in closing. Um, in British Columbia right now, I won't get into the weeds. They have introduced a proposal for Unit 7B, the Peace Region, that would remove caribou hunting completely, and it would reduce the allotment of moose by 50% and move all moose hunting to an LEH. And what most people are unaware of is that at the end of January, there was another regulation comment period that is now closed that introduced this harmonization regulation, which was in order to smooth out pressure between 7B, 7A, and 6, they were looking to harmonize the regulations because if they remove opportunity in one area, it just increases pressure in another. And so what people don't realize is that was open for comment and closed before this new thing was open. And so it assume it's going to get passed. Like they don't, that's the thing in Canada, it doesn't need to pass anything. They can do anything they want. No matter how many comments we put in, if the ministry decides to do something, they just do it. That was like the grizzly hunt. Nobody actually, everybody keeps thinking there's like some referendum and people voted to get rid of grizzlies. That's not what
No,
happened. There
they
was
just
no vote,
arbitrarily did it.
arbitrarily, just the, like, and that's the difference between us and the States. Like they don't have, you have to have referendums for things like that in
Yeah,
the States, and people vote. And if you get enough people to show up, you win. And if you don't, you lose.
yeah,
Anyways, the reason this thing is so important is that they could, if we lose it in 7B, they now have the power theoretically to replicate those regulations in 7A and 6. So you could, for
lose it
in
all.
all intents
Yeah,
and purposes, caribou could be gone and moose for 2/3 of the province could be pushed to LEH. So everybody, if you just Google Howl, they are a hunting advocacy group that has come up with a better technological solution to getting your voice heard. And they basically have an app where you enter your information, you enter your name, your email address, where you live, and it will automatically send letters to 86 MLAs.
perfect.
And it actually, they have different templates of letters. So when all the letters show up,
It's
it's
not the
not like it
same
looks like
carbon
a
copy.
thousand
Yeah,
letters. They all look a little like these guys have been killing it down in the States. A couple of people, Ty from Wilderness Locals and Tanner from Frontiersman Gear and Kyle from Wild Sheep Society reached out. Hal said, "We got your back." They fired up the app. They created the BC version for it. So, everybody go to Howl. Everybody fill that out,
you
please.
got that on your story, I think, right?
I have
You've
that
got
on
the
my
link.
story. So you can just click the little Act Now link. The other thing is please go to the Government of BC website, also on my stories. Also, Wilderness Locals is posting this nonstop. So you can go to his link tree the link in his profile or the link in my stories. And you need to log in with your BC ID and you need to say that you oppose and you need to enter a comment. And if you want, the rationale that you're putting in the comment is that you believe in science based wildlife management. The argument here is that the hunting rights of a particular band have been infringed upon. And so they're going to take away our hunting rights in order to compensate for that. Two problems. There's no data right now proving that those hunting numbers have been reduced. And there are other causes for if there has been an infringement on hunting rights. It's not because we're hunting too much, it's
Right.
because of overly aggressive resource extraction.
Extraction. Yep. Yep.
Um, so
And also, hang on.
please
You
go.
can also, you don't necessarily need to be a BC resident to do that.
And you
So,
can don't have to be a hunter. Your wife could do it. Your kids could do it. Like all
yeah,
you need is a BC ID. So like I did the
you
Howl
can.
thing with the whole family. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah.
and I did the BC ID thing because I got my dad one for this caribou
Share
hunt we're
it. So
gonna
yeah,
do.
share it with other people. People
Yeah,
that are, and this is a great way to increase. It also helps the hunting community in a really positive way. This shows that you actually care with
yeah,
conversations that you're having with other people. Like it's not just about, I get to go and fill my freezer. This is about um, doing what's right for the proper management of the species in this province.
yeah.
And so having those conversations are a great way for you to practice even just having those conversations, but it also does a really good thing for the hunting community on the whole, by showing the knowledge behind it. So share it with other people, have conversations with people about it. Yeah, that's right. That was my plug in there.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. I just got to switch something because I don't want to lose. Can you still hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
Okay. I just had to switch microphones. I plugged in the laptop. I don't want to. Oh, yeah. And Greg is hopping on. And if you want to follow Howl on Instagram for any of their links, it's Howl_org. Next thing I want to point out, Wilderness Locals, Ty, has gone and rounded up a shitload of free stuff. So Barklow from Sitka has donated a dew point rain gear system. There's a knife company that's donated a badass knife. There's a hiking pole company from New Zealand that's donated hiking pole. I don't even remember what all else is on there.
Check it out on his stories. He's posting them.
Yeah. And so if you go and do these things and then just take screen grabs, you can take those screen grabs, upload them, and enter for your chance. We're trying to incentivize people to go do this. Like, I think obviously just protecting hunting rights is enough of an incentive, but there's nothing wrong with making it like even a little more attractive. So not only are you doing a positive thing for the BC hunting community, you could also win some super cool shit at the same time. I've been really impressed with kind of how together, like, or how motivated and like the groundswell that's really got a lot of other stuff like comes and goes and people don't really pay attention. But I think they really underestimated how intense this one was. Like, you're talking about removing the caribou hunt and reducing the moose hunt by up to 50% and moving it all to LEH without any actual scientific basis or meaningful consultation period. And it's just like, it's fucking enough, man.
This is people. I mean, this is kind of the constant narrative of, overreach of power and hoping that nobody really pays attention. And it's really to satisfy, back to our conversation. What do they really care about?
Yeah.
Who are they trying to impress? Who are they trying? Whose eyes are they trying to look good? That's really, those are the questions that I'm asking. Going, what is the purpose behind all of this? Because it's not serving the species. It's not serving the communities, the population management. That's not what it's not solving any problems really. Because if you continue to do that, it just means that you can resource extract even more.
That's the only problem it solves, is that it allows you to temporarily continue the resource extraction at the intensity that it's currently occurring at. And it buys whoever some time.
Right. So it doesn't, so anyway, without actually going on a rant on it, this is why I think at this point, and with the advent of social media, and there's been enough good people, yourself, Wilderness Locals, a lot of, people on the ground who are using social media to create the awareness and call to actions. So with the incentivizing, doing all that stuff, and then trying to remove the obstacles for people to actually just go and make their voice heard. So if you make it really easy for people to do, then likelihood is people are actually going to do it. So I think we've found this kind of perfect storm to make our voices heard. And we need to continue to keep the pressure on and not be discouraged by them continuing to try to pull stuff like this. This isn't new. This is politics. It's all about money, and this is all about making themselves look good. So, don't expect that if this happened with the grizzly hunt, and it's going to happen here, if they've done it before, they're going to try to do it again. So we're just going to have to continue to fight back and not just take it.
Yeah, man. Okay, another thing that I want to shout out is that the Wild Sheep Society of British Columbia just recently finished their auction. I want to thank everybody who participated. I donated a sleeping bag that was given to me by Sitka, so I just gave away something that was given to me. So, but I also chipped in a bunch of Mindful Hunter merch, and I think that went for $450 or $425. So that was super cool. I know Tanner from Frontiersman Gear had a couple knives in there, and one crazy knife that ended up going for like $2,700 or something. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, work of art. I have my order in for my custom hunting knife, and it should be done sometime near Christmas in 2023. But well, no, sorry, 2022 Christmas.
Okay.
I got about another 8 to 10 months to go. Anyways, I want to thank everybody who participated in that. It's money that goes to a really good cause. And I wanted to note that the Rocky Mountain Goat Alliance conservation auction is coming up. I don't know exactly when. It's sometime in the next week or two. If you just go to the Rocky Mountain Goat Alliance Instagram page, you'll figure it out. But a lot of times there's opportunities. Like I know guys who got $1,000 taxidermy credits for $750. And the sleeping bag I donated retails for almost $600 Canadian, and dude got it for $400 or $450. So it's like, not only are you giving money to conservation, but I think there's some real legitimate opportunities to get some cool shit for like a deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention and let them know that that was going on. You got anything you want to note before we wrap things up, man?
No, I mean, I'll just, my philosophical nature would just say, you play the game the way you practice the game. So what are you practicing between now and September, or now and August, whenever you're getting, it's just all of a sudden it's March. It's almost the end of March. And next thing you know, it's going to be June. And so, don't wait to level up now. All of these things, if you're even putting off, if you say to yourself, "Oh, I'll go get a BCID tomorrow," don't do that. You've got it. It won't take you more than 5 minutes to get in there and do that now. Don't put it off till tomorrow. All these little things, they make a difference. How you play the game the way you practice the game. So what are you practicing right now?
Love it. Greg is chiming in March 21st to 27th for the auction for the Goat Alliance. So that's kicking off next week. All right. As always, if you guys could take a moment, engage with the platform, like, comment, share, subscribe, always greatly appreciated. If you want some merch, mindfulhunter.com/shop. Other than that, as always, thanks for tuning in. And it's always a pleasure, brother. And we'll have to do this one again soon.
Absolutely, my friend. Thanks so much for having me on. Have a wonderful evening. You too.